Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Erica Engel-Ishida from Ohio EPA Division of Air Pollution Control. And we also have with us Mark Needham, who's the manager of the asbestos program. We will be discussing today and demonstrating the online form that we have made available as of January 26th. And we are hoping that we can get as many users to use that option as possible, and hope to receive any comments from you that would be preventing you from using that system, so that we can try to get as much usership as possible. Here's a quick transition summary of what's been happening. January 1st, the Ohio Department of Health Asbestos Program for licensing and certifications, as well as training approvals, moved to Ohio EPA. We did a lot of different kinds of outreach, trying to make sure that everyone that was affected was informed of what was happening, and based on the number of forms we're receiving here at the agency, I think we met that goal. We want to make sure that everyone is aware that all forms that are applying to asbestos now, whether it be an application for licensing and certifications, training notifications, or any approval documentation, that all needs to be sent in to Ohio EPA. We still do have some people that are mailing things directly to the Department of Health, and although we do receive those, we expect that that transfer between agencies will probably end this summer. We did make the merged project notification form. We published that and made it available in mid-December. And that form is what has been made available in Ohio EPA's e-Business Center at this time. As far as the project transition, we've had two webinars so far, one regarding the program merger itself and what all that means. And in addition, there's another one regarding the notification form with a review of that, what the fields mean, the new design, et cetera. So that form that we came up with to merge the efficiencies of these two programs, that is what the software was designed based off of. So the online forms in the e-Business Center, so as I stated, January 26th we went live, and we've been receiving notifications of demolition and renovation abatement electronically through that e-Business Center. In summer of 2018, we expect to have the software system into the e-Business Center for applications for trainings and certifications, as well as training notifications and other documentation. Just a quick note, the online applications that are being used through ODH and the training notifications, this can continue to be submitted electronically through the Department of Health until the e-Business Center version is made available. So those are being accessed by us currently, and data is being transferred between the two agencies through an agreement that we have with them. So for now, we only have the notifications, the project notifications that are up on our e-Business Center, but the remaining of those applications and training notifications will be coming this summer. Okay. As I spoke to earlier, we want to point out the benefits of why you might want to submit things online and the conveniences we've tried to make available to you. Clear communication is one of those. You will receive email alerts when you have submitted a notification, or if you have paid a fee to us, as well as when your notification has been reviewed and accepted by the agency. So you'll receive email notifications directly to you as a user of the system. We've also implemented some time savers for what we hope will save you time and your data entry to be an incentive for you to use this software. There is less data entry. So for example, when you're searching for owners or contractors, landfills or things like that, we are able to allow you to go through and search for previous owners, that notifications that have been submitted in the past, contractors, et cetera, so that you can pre-populate many fields for you so that you can avoid having to key those in. We also have the fee calculation tool that is out there. The total fee amount is presented to you with an explanation of how it was calculated. So as you are going through and entering in all of your different project addresses, the system will be taking into account asbestos amounts that you've given, what different types of projects are going on in order to calculate those fee amounts for you. Part of when you're going through and submitting a hard copy, although we've provided a fee calculation worksheet, it can be cumbersome and difficult to determine what your fee amount should be, so that takes the burden off of you with the system calculating it for you. The validation of a complete form. The forms that we receive must be complete before they can be submitted. So we hope that the validation that we have will help to have you submit the right information the first time, rather than having to go back and submit potentially several revisions or maybe even delay the ability for your project to begin. And lastly, one of the time savers that we've implemented, we heard from customers that it would be helpful for situations where you have an installation where you're submitting potentially many addresses on one notification. You'll have the ability to export a summary with a list of those addresses, project start and end dates, and RECM amounts that you can export to Excel if you would like to do that, so that if you're going out to visit certain sites or just want to keep track of what work needs to be done, you can do that and be able to export that to a specific summary. Okay, what is the eBusiness Center? For those that are new to using this tool for the Ohio EPA, we just wanted to make sure that you were all aware of what the eBusiness Center is. It's been around for, I don't know, over 10 years now. If there are any online systems where the agency is accepting forms electronically or fee payments or anything of that nature, we have established the eBusiness Center. So it's our portal for submitting things electronically for all the divisions. For any data that we receive for a program that is a federal program from US EPA, we have to meet the requirements of a rule that's called the Cross-Media Electronic Reporting Rule, or CROMER. So that's the eBusiness Center with the security mechanisms that we have in place to get usernames and passwords, and how we submit and all of those things are all CROMER compliant for that reason. So each division and program area has specific regulatory requirements that drive the software and form access. So you should expect that if you do business through the eBusiness Center with different divisions or even program areas at Ohio EPA, you can expect that the software will behave slightly differently. They might have different rules for who is allowed and who is not allowed to sign different things using a PIN number. So today we're only speaking toward what is applicable to the asbestos project notification system. So when you log into this system, when you're accessing asbestos notifications, what we're speaking to is only applicable for this program. Excuse me. So as you know, this development and merger of these two programs started about 7 months ago, with the second half of 2017. And because of that, our software that we've established has, everything that we need in it for you guys to be able to submit these notification forms to us. But there are specific enhancements that we will be making to the system to make it more user-friendly for you and more business-friendly for you to be able to share these forms and the workload across different contractors, for example, or with owners or customers of your business. So at this point in time, for example, the notifications that people used to submit under the Department of Health, all of those notifications were made available out on the public webpage. And at this point, those are not currently available on Ohio EPA's webpage, but we expect that they will be in the future. So when we talk about enhancements that are coming soon, we are aware and we're trying to meet that goal of having them available, but they probably will not be available until summer 2018. But I will point out along the way what additional enhancements we foresee. Okay, one of the most important things that we need to make sure that everyone is clear on when using the eBusiness Center is this concept of an account and PIN number. So we have an account that you have to get in order to use the eBusiness Center. That account, it represents a person. So there is one account per person, not per company. So you can use that account in the eBusiness Center across all the divisions and the programs. So if you already have an account for another division, like for stormwater or something, and you already have a PIN number established, that same account and PIN number can be used for any program in the agency. Excuse me. You can create your own individual username and your own password, and you will be required to create a security question, which is also your own. So I'll go through and demonstrate how to do that going forward in this presentation. The PIN number. There is one PIN number per account. That PIN, as I explained, can be used across programs because it represents your personal wet ink signature. So me, Erica Engel Ishida, I can have an account. I can have a PIN number that represents my personal signature. I could quit my job here at Ohio EPA and go work someplace else that had to do business with the eBusiness Center, and I could continue to use my same account and my same PIN number because it represents me as a person, not my company. So it's important to remember, specifically right now when you're using this asbestos notification system, that whoever it is that goes in and enters an original notification to give to the agency, you will be the person that's completing that and the person that's signing off and pinning it. You do not share an account or PIN number with other people. If you do that, and the person that is using your account and PIN number is essentially, committing forgery. It'd be kind of like signing someone else's name to a form at the end and saying, yes, I attest to it. My name is actually, George Smith. So we just want to be clear, just so that everyone is aware, that when you're using the software system, these are all implemented in order to meet the federal requirements for receiving data for federal programs, and this concept of account and PIN is very important. Okay, so here's a question we want to make sure everyone's clear on, is who can access and see project notifications? So each account holder can only see the notifications that are created by that account. So if I go in and I create a notification with my account and I create an original, other people that are logging in to create notifications with their accounts can only see theirs. They cannot see mine. So when you're going through and creating these items, so you can create an original notification, you can view your notification, you can revise your notification, you can cancel it, you can put it on hold and track its progress through while the work's being done, etc. But you can't see others, and other people cannot see yours. So the last bullet on here for planned enhancement. So we have heard loud and clear, and we understand that it is a business need for you to be able to delegate access to your notifications to either other contractors or other owners, other employees at your office. And in addition, you would like to have the ability to be able to see project notifications and search for those online, as you had the capability to do at ODH. And we've heard that need and we understand it. We, again, plan on implementing that before the end of summer, but it is not available today. Okay, so in the software, you have the capability to submit an original notification. When you're submitting an original notification, we're talking about a software system that was designed to make data entry and the flow of the form be the same as what you would see in the hard copy. So you do have the exact same fields, but since we've made data entry easier for you being able to search for certain entities, for example, that will help go through the process. But if you've seen the merge notification form that we've created and made available, you'll notice the software is very similar to that. So when you're completing a revision or if you're completing an original, they're the same things. There's nothing really different on these forms. So the same convenience and rules apply in the software that apply on the hard copy. you have one form, so one notification form per county, per owner, and per abatement contractor if it's applicable. If you have more than one project address, you can have that as well. You would just create additional project addresses and keep, adding as many as you want to and go ahead and submit it all as one. So it's not a one-to-one relationship in the software. It's the same convenience that you have with the hard copy form. As we'll see in a few moments, it's pretty simple to create a new notification. There is simply a button that says Create New Notification that is at the top right of the screen, so we hope that'll be relatively simple. You must pass the form validation in order for it to be considered complete and for us to allow it to be submitted. So for example, if you've indicated that you are abating asbestos, then we will require that you have a valid abatement contractor selected. In order to submit an original form to us, you have to enter a PIN number and answer your security question that you've established. You also must complete electronic payment in order for that submission to be successful. So when you come online to work and submit a notification to us, you need to be prepared to pay electronically. So that would have to be done using an electronic check or with a credit card. If you need to pay for your notification through a check, then you must also submit the form in hard copy. So if it's a hard copy check, it's a hard copy form. If it's an electronic check or credit card, then you have to submit the form electronically. So there are confirmation emails, as we discussed before, as part of the communication when you are successfully submitting the form, and you also get a payment receipt back letting you know that we received both of those things. Okay, revisions. Once you've submitted your original notification and then you've paid for it and it's moved down to an active notifications area, you'll be able to revise any of those active original notifications. So you can revise most of the fields. I'm speaking on a high level. You can revise most everything in there except for the county, the owner entity, and the abatement contractor. You can go in and select like a new contact person if that person left the company or something like that. But if you actually are trying to change an owner or change an abatement contractor, typically those are things that would require a new original notification. But if you have specific circumstances and you're not sure and that necessarily applies to you, of course, please give us a phone call so that we can kind of discuss and talk through it and see if there's any workarounds that would apply to that situation. Okay, so again, for revisions, it does apply where you must pass form validation in order for something to be complete. When you submit a revision to us, you're entering a PIN and answering your security question again, so you have to go through and sign off and say all this information is true and accurate. But there's no payment or refund until all of the projects are complete. So just like with the hard copy, if you go through and submit a notification form as an original and complete your payment, if you've submitted several revisions over time that maybe adjusted the amounts of asbestos that were being abated, or you've decided that the building needs to be demolished, or whatever the case may be, and those adjustments are made, once the project completion dates have passed, and it's 3 days past those dates, then at that point in time, we would take a look at the total paid at the beginning and what's currently due at the end, and we will either issue a refund or we will go through and send an invoice to you to be paid. So no revisions are allowed after 3 working days past the completion dates for all the projects that you have in your notification form. Am I forgetting anything on revisions? Okay. Okay, canceling notifications. Only notifications that have not passed the abatement or demolition start dates can be canceled. So if you go through and you have submitted a notification form to us, you've paid all of your notification fees, those notification fees will not be refunded if you cancel your form. The RACM amounts would be, but not the notification fees. If you have a circumstance where you need to put any projects on hold, then you need to be conscious and aware of when the start and end dates of your projects are going to be. Because if you put a project on hold and then the completion date goes past, you potentially won't be able to cancel it in the future. So you kind of want to keep in mind and pay attention to those project begin dates and end dates for both demolition and abatement. But you do have the ability within the software to cancel notifications. Okay, just a few more concepts that we want to make sure that everyone's clear on before we navigate to demonstrate the software. There are 3 areas of notifications that you'll find on the notification screen. One of them is unsubmitted draft project notifications. One is active project notifications. And the last is completed or canceled project notifications. So if it's an unsubmitted project notification, and this is similar to other areas within the eBusiness Center, Ohio EPA cannot see the forms until until it's been submitted to us. So, but you can save the work and come back and work on it later in the draft form and then submit to us later. So you can come in, start filling out your form. If you don't have all the information yet gathered for that project, you can save it and come back to it later. However, you can't, if you call Ohio EPA and start asking them about this notification form, they won't be able to see that until you've actually submitted and paid. Active project notifications are the ones where the abatement or demolition completion dates for all the projects haven't passed yet, and they've already been submitted to us and passed all the QA and everything. So any of the active project notifications would contain any of those projects where the work is still being done and they haven't passed the time that you can't revise them. They will also remain in the active project notification area until any of the fee adjustments have been made and paid for or refunded. So if it turns out at the end, after you've submitted many revisions to a notification, that you end up owing the agency $100 or something like that, there'll be a different status that'll be on that to show that it's an unpaid balance, but it will remain in an active project state until that's been resolved. Once a project has been completed, all the work's completed on it and payments been made, etc., or it's been canceled, it will move into the completed canceled project notification area. So all forms submitted by that account, which are no longer active, will appear at the bottom portion of the screen. So if you are really active and have many buildings that you're demolishing or abating, potentially the bottom area of the screen will grow over time for all the different ones that you can look through, but I will show you some different search and filter mechanisms to help manage that information if you ever want to go back and take a look at some of the work that's been done in the past. Okay, notification statuses. So in the past, ODH had a software system with a notification status concept as well. Our statuses now are slightly different, so I just want to make sure that we went through and kind of covered what these mean. Okay, ready for review. The notification has been received and Ohio EPA staff will review it soon. So once you have submitted a notification form and you have paid for it, the very first status you will see in the active notification area, it will say that it is ready for review. Once Ohio EPA has reviewed the information and seen that all the required information is present, it will move to an accepted state. If when Ohio EPA is reviewing the notification and it is deemed to be incomplete, so we'll be calling customers to let them know if there are any deficiencies one way or the other. If it can't get resolved quickly and it turns out like we can't get a hold of the customer or whatever the scenario might be, we will mark those notifications as being deficient, and that will show up for you on the eBusiness Center. Payment due. would be if a situation where we've sent an invoice to the company through email or in hard copy if it was a hard copy report, and all the work's been done and we've sent an invoice and there's a fee amount that needs to be paid or refunded, it will be in a payment due status. Once the payment has been made, it will move to being complete, and that means all work is complete and no balance is due, so that will move into the completed or canceled area on the screen I showed before. If it is canceled, that means that work did not begin at any of these projects that are inside the notification, and the notification has been canceled, so that's what that status would represent. Okay, so I'm going to head over to the eBusiness Center. Now, when you are navigating to the eBusiness Center, we have here the URL here, ebiz.epa.ohio.gov, and there are also buttons for the eBusiness Center that are all over the Ohio EPA webpage. There's a button that you can click on that says go to the eBusiness Center. This URL that is up here does not apply to you guys. This is only our test system, so please don't necessarily try to navigate to this because any of your account information won't work. Okay, so when you come to the eBusiness Center, if you already have an existing username and password, you can continue to use that. So if you're doing business with other divisions and other program areas, you can continue to use your same username and password. If you do not have one, you can click on Create New Account and create one of your own. So once you've entered in your information here, you can go ahead and put in your first name, your last name, and you will be prompted to enter in a password and a security question. Okay, my address. These are being pre-populated just through the Google Chrome offering that service to me. This is not a software feature. Okay, so once I've completed all the information here about what we need to establish a user in the system, then you'll click Create Account, and then you will be prompted to log in. Okay, and this is the eBusiness Center. It's a little bit, the font is a little bit small here because the demo. So you'll see in the eBusiness Center there are many different services that are available. So you can, for example, if you have, once you've been invoiced by us at some point, you will have the ability to come in and pay that fee online separately. That's a service that's available. There's stormwater reports. There's many things here. But the one that we are just demonstrating today is the asbestos project notification. But as we discussed before I complete a project notification, I need to be prepared to submit electronically using a PIN number, as well as being able to pay electronically. So in order to establish my PIN number, I need to come up here and go to my account, and I need to request new PIN. So the information that it is asking you on that screen is customized. If you already have a PIN, you'll be able to deactivate your PIN. You will be able to, you can deactivate a PIN, you can see your PIN if you've forgotten what it was. There's several different options that will be available to you. I won't be able to demonstrate for you actually getting a PIN number today, but I just want to make sure that you're familiar with these screens and are aware of what the options are and what this all kind of means. So you go through and you create your user account and your password. Then you need to establish your PIN. The PIN, again, represents you personally and your personal signature. So that means that we need to do some identity verification for who you are. So the system has a PIN request set up that is electronic to do electronic identity verification. You can enter in, your first name, last name. This is your home address, so not your work address. It is your home phone number, not your work phone number, not your cell phone number, but if you have a home phone number, that would be what you would use. So if people have had difficulties with this over the years, it usually comes from they're entering their company address in here, or maybe using a cell phone number, that kind of thing. So please make sure that you complete and follow the instructions as best as you can. And obviously, if you have any questions, you can feel free to give us a call. After you've entered in that personal information, you do establish your own security questions. There are 5 security questions here, which might seem excessive, but as we are going through and pinning things, we are prompting you for your security question and answer. So we rotate through these 5 security questions to make sure that it's not just the same answer every time. So you want to make sure that your security questions and answers are something that are going to be obvious to you, particularly if you're trying to submit something quickly and you're under pressure to get something done. It's kind of tricky for us because when we're trying to support you, we don't know the answers to your security questions and we didn't establish the security questions, so we do get calls sometimes from people that are asking us what the answer is to their security question, and we don't know that. So please try to make them as easy for yourself as possible, but still personal enough so that only you would know it. Okay, when you keep scrolling down, there's information about online identity verification. If you choose to allow us to go through and try to verify your identity online, you'll be asked to enter in your birth date and the last 4 digits of your Social Security number. You then have to check that you've reviewed all the above and click Verify Identity. You'll be allowed 3 attempts the first time, and then the next time you would be able to go through and do it for the next, you can do it 3 times in one day, and then you'd have to be doing it the next day if you wanted to try again. So like in my case, for example, I have a hyphenated last name and say I just moved. It might take me a few times before the system can find me because I don't know if they're using Angle or Ishida or whatever previous address we had. So please, just do what you can to put in your information as best as possible, and if it doesn't work out successfully for you, there is another option, but it does take a little bit longer, which is to submit a hard copy notarized identity verification. So if you do that, it gives you a hard copy form that you can fill out. You get that, I think you get it notarized, and then you send it in here, and we will get you your PIN number that way. So if you have time, you can do that if you want to get your PIN number that way and use the system. Or if you go through and use your online verification, it's usually about 85% successful that they can identify your identity. If you've been relatively absent from the internet, it makes it more difficult for the system to be able to verify that, but we should be able to. Eventually we can get you your PIN one way or the other so that you can sign off on these documents. So once you do get your PIN number, you will see different options to go in and activate your PIN. And like I said, you'll be able to deactivate it, request to see it. You can get your PIN number changed if you need to, etc. Okay, so now that I've demonstrated that, I'm actually going to move over to my actual test account. I'm going to log in as me. Okay. So this will show you here, once you have your account established and your PIN, you can go in here and view your PIN, update your PIN holder information, or deactivate your PIN. So as I was explaining before, when you get your username and password and your PIN number, it is personal to you. You might think it's a good idea to take your account and give your username and password to another employee at your company or to an assistant or something like that because only you have the PIN. Well, anyone that logs in as you with your account name and your password has the ability to view your PIN, update your PIN holder information, deactivate your PIN. Granted, it will be asking, your security questions, but depending on how savvy you were at creating them, if your assistant also knows what your pet's name is or also knows what street you live on, etc., they might be able to get in here and modify your PIN. And it's not to say that people have the intent of doing things illegally. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just a matter of, in order for us to keep the system secure, those are the things you need to be aware of. Okay. So now let's go ahead and go into the asbestos project notification system. And I'm going to go through here and kind of give you a tour of what the system looks like and what it's capable of here. So at the top right, you have the ability to exit back to the eBusiness Center, so back to that main kind of greenish colored screen with a list of all the services. There's an online help on the right-hand side here where you can click for instructions, or it gives the hotline number for you to call for project notification assistance. Or if you click here, this is your log out for the entire system. So as I explained before, if you're creating an original notification, you'd come over here and click the Create New Notification button. These are specifically those three areas that I was explaining before, where you have unsubmitted draft project notifications, active project notifications, and completed or canceled notifications. So some of the features on the specific forms and some of the themes kind of throughout the software, if you have actions that you're going to be doing, they're over here on the right-hand side. It'll show you all the different things that you can do with that specific form depending on where it is in the review process or where it is where project completion dates are. There's also specifically, if you are looking at all of your notifications and you can't remember which project addresses they were that you had submitted in that notification, you can hover over on the left-hand side and it will show you which project addresses are currently in that notification. You also have the ability to come in and click on Actions and click Projects, and you can see a list here of all of your different projects that you have with their addresses, the different RACM amounts, your demo start and end dates, and there's also asbestos abatement start and end dates as well. Oops, excuse me. Okay, so let's say I have a list of 100 projects that I'm working on, and I want to take a look at all the ones that are on the same street so that I can plan a visit to the site or whatever the case may be. There's an option down at the bottom of the table to click Filter All Columns, so you can type any word in these things and have it reduced down. So let's say you had indicated that these, there's vacant, some of them were vacant houses and others were specific building names. You could filter on a building name. In this case, I want to take a look at all the ones that are on Miller Avenue, so I'm just going to start typing Miller, and you'll see it shrunk my list down to show the only one that was on Miller Avenue. And then at any point in time, you can also click Export to Excel, and it will put that out to Excel so that you can print it and do whatever you want to with that data. Okay, so the other actions that are available, just to help you understand what's out there, there's View Current PDF, so you can click that to view a PDF version of the form that you have that's completed there. Download all PDF means that you can download, if you have revisions to this or if you have attachments to it, it will download a PDF version of all of the different revised notification forms and all of the attachments that have been made to those. So it's kind of like a complete record of everything that's happened with that notification. View will allow you to view the notification within the software form. So it's not a PDF version, it's viewing it within the software form itself. Revise is how you would go revise to submit a revision to a notification. And you'll also see an option to cancel if none of the projects have started. So you can only cancel project notifications if they have not yet begun the work at those sites. Okay, so I believe I've shown you everything that's kind of common amongst the system here. Let's go ahead and crack into a notification form. So I have one up here that's currently in draft that I'm working on, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new notification because I just got word of some additional work that we need to get done. So I'm going to click Create New Notification, and I have a new form here. Okay, so the notification form, as I explained, is designed to be similar to the hard copy. It also helps data entry internally here, but we hope that it would also help to orient everyone to the software compared to what the hard copy form was doing. This summary information at the top will make more sense later on. Once you've completed all the different project addresses that you want to add to your form, it's kind of just a high-level summary so that when you open it up, then you know, okay, contained within this form there is a demolition. Or if it includes renovation abatement, it will show that information as well here. So that will populate as you go along through the system. We have some instructional text here just to make clear to everyone. We have, through the system, through the quality assurance checks and validations that are in play, we will enforce the 10 working days that we need to have before you can submit an original notification. It must include payment, and we also do not accept courtesy notifications. So if you have a project that you are doing and it is not notifiable, or it's not a project that we need to be legally notified of, we won't accept a notification form for that because we don't want to create more work for you or for us. So this just goes through and describes what those criteria we are looking for to make sure that it kind of meets the criteria of us needing to receive these notices. Okay, if you find that you need assistance at any point while you're going through the form, like I was saying up here in the top right, there is this question mark where if you click on it, it will pull up instruction forms that gives you information for each individual field and what those definitions are and examples, etc. That will be enhanced over time as we get further along in the software and kind of as we start receiving questions so that we can help make it more robust. Okay, so as you can see, as we're navigating around here, there is a title bar that appears on the bottom of the screen. And this is common between both Section 1 and Section 2 of the form, and it's kind of important to understand what these different buttons mean as you're going along the way. So right now I'm in Section 1, so I have 4 buttons over here on the right-hand side. So I have Validate, which if I click that, that will run validation for this form and any project addresses that I've included. If I click Save, it will obviously save the form. It'll give you notifications on the bottom here. If I click Submit, that will attempt to submit the form, but it will first run validation to make sure that you're submitting a complete form to us. If I click on Exit, that navigates us out to this main area here. You can see I kind of have a blank form here. So if you click on Exit, that will navigate you out to this main notification list page. So I can come over here and click Edit to get back into the form. And then once I create a project address, I will also review that title bar so that you can see the difference between them. over here on the left-hand side, there are two different areas you can see have this pop-up assistance. If I click over here on your notification ID that got assigned, it will create a PDF version of this form that I'm currently on. There is also next to, or to the right of that, under total fee, if you click on that, it will display a fee summary of how that total fee is calculated. I mean, right now it's populated with zeros, of course, but I'll show this later on too with amounts in here. It gives you an explanation of how the fees are calculated, when they're applicable, how we came up with these totals essentially, for how we're charging the fees so that you don't have to work out that calculus on your own. Okay, so back to just completing this form, Section 1, General Information. We are going to go ahead and go through and create a notification form for a demolition only. So again, I'm creating this form for one county, one owner, and one abatement contractor if applicable. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to submit one for Franklin County. I am going to come down to my next area here, which is to identify the owner. So the owner, this is an example of where you can use the search feature. So what we have done is we have populated the system with any owners that we have received previous notifications for since the beginning of this federal fiscal year, so we're migrating data over. So for example, if I was doing work for Ohio State University, an example I used before, you can go through and find that. Let's say I'm going to do Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So I can go through and choose whichever address it is that was associated with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. If I do not find my owner that I am looking for in here, I have the ability to click Add New Owner and add a new owner for this. Now you'll notice there is a question over here asking, is this a company? And we did not intend for this question to be confusing. It's really just a matter of whether or not is this owner a human, or is this owner a business, organization, municipality, county, anything that represents a group or organization versus an individual person. So if I say, is this a company? No, the search becomes first name, last name. So if you can't find the person that you want to have be the owner of this property, you can click on Add New Owner, say, is this a company? No, and fill in the information. So in my example here, I'm going to go ahead and just pick a Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. If you do select one, so say you select this Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and then you determine that, oh wait, I didn't mean to select that, this is actually the wrong notification, I need to submit it for something else, you can click Clear Owner Data, and it will blank out those fields so that you can start over. Okay, so once I select the owner that I was able to search for, it populates the information in those fields for me. The only thing that I'm left to complete at this point is the contact name. Okay. So in my example, this first one that I'm filling out here is just for a demolition only, so I don't have an asbestos abatement contractor, so I'm going to leave that blank. Then my next area that I am asked to enter is billing contact. So I'm going to associate my bill with the owner, so I'm going to enter in that information. Okay, so we have associated a billing contact for a few different reasons. One would be if you have a situation where your billing contact or the person that receives and pays bills is off-site in a different location from where like the main office is for the people that you're dealing with for asbestos removal. If it's also for, when you go through and you submit your form, the person that holds the user account and PIN is the person that's entering in the payment information to pay for this notification up front. If there ends up being a difference in the bill, whether that's to be refunded or whether it is to for us to send an invoice to you, we will be contacting this person that you've specified here to be associated with that amount so that they can handle it. Okay, so continuing on, the fire department here would only be applicable if you had a fire training that was happening as a form of demolition for how you were taking down the building. So since we don't have that situation, we're going to move forward. So we are going to now enter in our evaluation specialist. In our test system, Mark Needham gets a lot of work done because I use him a lot and as our system for being a valid person with these different certifications. So we have Mark Needham listed here as our evaluation specialist. If you have more than one project address that you're including and you need to give to us more than one evaluation specialist, we do not have the ability at this time for you to add more than one evaluation specialist. Instead, you can go through and submit an attachment to us, and I'll show you how to do that later on. So I'm going to continue to complete this form. So number 4, procedures to be followed should unexpected Rackham be discovered. Complete that. If you do ever select the checkboxes for other, then it will appear here, this box will appear for you to complete. And if you see that your screen is not wrapping correctly, like I see here, it just means that the resolution is different than what we anticipated people to use. So if I zoom out, for example, then everything becomes oriented better. So with different browsers, different monitors, et cetera, we did the best we could, but if it starts wrapping strange, that's why. It doesn't mean your data won't be received. It's just a matter of the resolution on your screen. Okay, so number 5, we have a planned demolition. So let's go with implosion. Sounds fun. Wet methods. Number 6, asbestos description and engineering controls. For this part of our notification that we are doing, we don't have asbestos, so we're leaving that number blank. So number 7 does not apply because, again, we're doing demolition only. And we don't have an asbestos waste disposal site. And this isn't an emergency, so I'm leaving that blank too. And we're down to the project address information. So section 1, if you're doing a demolition only, remains, there's a few pieces of information required, but not many. Again, like I was saying before, if you do have a specific attachment that you want to give us, like whether it is the additional evaluation specialist or something else that you want to submit to us or that turns out to be required given your specific circumstances, you can handle that through a generic notification attachment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save along the way. So here in section 2, this is where we're going to add our specific project addresses. So you'll notice down at the bottom left here, it'll give you a total summary of what your Rackham totals are for any of the projects that are here. In addition, just like I showed you before with the filtering columns area, once you do have additional data that's in here, you can filter this based on your building name or address, et cetera. So I am going to go ahead and click on Add Project Address. So we can go ahead and start filling that out. So we will fill out our name. Let's see, Kennedy. I'm just picking presidents today. So specific site location, entire building. Okay, so I'm going to complete my information about my building size. So this is a vacant building that used to be a school, let's say. So I said we're filling this out for demolition only, so we're going to click demolition and leave this area blank. Is asbestos present? No. And on the form, on the hard copy form that you have, this area appears a little bit differently. So it says, is asbestos present, yes or no, and then it goes on further to say no, and if previously abated, what's the year? So if we have a question here where is asbestos present and we say no, if you do not have a case where there was any asbestos there and it was never abated, you don't have to enter a year here. But if it is no and it was previously abated, then you can enter in the year. Okay, since I do not have any asbestos, I don't have any numbers to put in for section D. I don't have any abatement dates that I need to enter here, so I'm going to leave E blank as well. So section F, I am doing demolition, so I'm going to select my demolition contractor. So again, I can come in here and search for any of the demolition contractors that are already pre-populated, and I can select one of those. If I determine that I accidentally selected it and I didn't really want to do it, again, you can say clear demolition and search for another one. If I need to enter in a new one, I can click add new demolition contractor and start entering that in here. Okay, so if I enter in a new demolition company because I was unable to find it in the search, I just have to click save, and it will populate that information for me. And then when I complete future notifications, or if other users come in and complete future notifications, they can select that demo contractor when they go to search. Okay, so now I'm going to schedule my demolition dates. So I'm going to schedule these here. Okay, so down at the bottom of this screen here, on the bottom bar that is kind of permanently in place as you're scrolling around, I showed you before for section 1 what the buttons were over here, and they were, you could validate, save, submit, and exit. So on section 2, we have validate. Now, this validation will only run for the project address I'm currently on, as opposed to all of the projects and section 1. So we'll try to clarify these buttons a little bit, so it just says validate project, so you know what that button does more without having to just remember. But that's what it's for. The save button is obvious, so you can save the changes you've made. If you've gone in and made a change to the form and realized you didn't want to make that change and you just want to cancel it, for example, if you hit close without saving, it will prompt you and let you know there are unsaved changes. Are you sure you want to close this page? So that's why we have that built in, because, you know, for people that go in and might accidentally edit something they didn't mean to edit, for example. So I'm going to cancel and save my work. And now I'm going to click validate so that I can validate this specific project I am on. So for this project address, I'm doing a demolition only. So I click validate and an error message pops up. So section 2, project 1G, demolition start date cannot be later than the completion date. So it went through here. I'm going to close this down. So I went through here and I accidentally chose a date that had the completion date before the start date, which makes no sense. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to fix this to be March 27th, 2018. I'm going to save and close. Okay, so now you can see, now that I'm back on section 1, you can see I've added one project address. So let's say now I have information on the same county and the same owner, and we will need to do some asbestos abatement work. So we are going to be able to go ahead and use the same form because it is the same county and the same owner. So I'm going to click on Add Project Address. I'm going to go ahead and enter in additional information here. So I'm going to pick Lincoln Building. And we are going to be removing a bunch of tape. Tape, is that the right word? Around the pipe? So we're going to go through and remove a lot of pipe from this building. So I'm going to say this is in the basement in the northeast corner. So I'm going to give this address. Okay, so I've entered in my building information, and for this one, we are going to be going through and doing some abatement, and we're going to be removing some asbestos from the pipes. So is asbestos present? Yes. So let's go through and indicate the number of linear feet that we are removing from this building. So we have our setup date, our abatement date, and the completion date for when we expect to have this work done. Okay, so since we've set up our schedule, we also have to indicate what the schedule is for when our abatement specialist is going to be present. So I'm going to go through here and search for a valid abatement specialist. Now, the abatement specialists that we select, those are being imported from the Department of Health system every day. So we have valid information here on who is currently a valid abatement specialist, who is currently a valid contractor, et cetera. So I'm going to come in here and indicate which days my abatement specialist will be on site. So it defaults from 8 to 5. We'll go ahead and leave it that way. You can adjust these numbers if you have your abatement specialist is going to be on site, like say Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 to 5, but Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday and Friday, you know, whatever. Change your schedule to be like 7 to 3:30 or whatever the case may be. You can add more on-site hours for this abatement specialist. If you have more than one abatement specialist, you can add another one if you need to, depending on how big your project is, so that option is also available. So in this case, my demolition contractor, I don't need one because I'm not doing any demolition for this specific project address, which means I do not have any demolition dates scheduled, and I'm not putting my project on hold right off the bat. So I am going to validate this project, and my form is valid. I'm going to save and close. Okay. So now you can see my summary here was adjusted, so you can see what my total RACM amounts are for this whole project. You can also see at the bottom of section 2 that my total fee amount has been adjusted to $176 based off of what we've completed on those different projects. So for example, if I come in here and I click and look at my summary, I can see, you know, linear feet of RACM is 635 linear feet. I have a one-time NESHAP notification fee that's been identified. This is how much I have to pay for the RACM amount. And for my project notification fees for licensing, I have one for $65. So let's say I have a question, well, why, you know, which one is it that I had to pay the $65 fee for, you can come down here and click on this arrow to see specific details on what is applicable and where the fee was charged. So this one had demolition only, did not have renovation, and had no asbestos present, so there's no licensing fee. Okay, so again, I'm on section 1 right now, so I'm looking at the 2 projects here, summary that I have. I'm going to go ahead and click Validate Now, and when I'm validating section 1 and any of the section 2s that I've included. So it'll go through the entire form and perform validation on that. So when I click on Validate, it gives me the complete list. So if, for example, I wanted to highlight this and copy it and paste it in Word, I could if I wanted to, if the list was long. You'll see this white list pops up, which is complete. This one only shows the top 5, so depending on how you like to work, it will handle it either way. So the reason I'm getting these messages now, and I didn't earlier, is because when we were initially filling out section 1, the computer system only was aware of what data you had entered at that point. So at that point, when I had included one project and I ran validation for demolition only, that meant that none of the asbestos abatement information was required. But now that I've entered another project that has abatement going on, now in order to submit my form, I need to make sure that I have an asbestos abatement contractor and answer the other asbestos abatement related questions. So I am going to close this, and I think this is up too high and it's driving me nuts, so I'm just going to close it. So I'm going to go ahead and just scroll back up to the top here and kind of reevaluate, since now I'm doing some abatement work too. So you see here in this summary now, it now shows demolition and renovation abatement for what's going on in this specific notification form. So scrolling down through, my owner's still applicable. My asbestos abatement contractor is now required, so I'm going to search through and select my contractor. I need to add a contact for that contractor. Okay, so as I continue to scroll, my billing contact is still applicable. I'm still not doing fire training for demolition, so I'm going to scroll down. So now, question number 4, I already had answered that one. For if we have unexpected Rackham, what would we do? 5 was for demolition. 6. So for number 6, asbestos description and engineering controls. So I'm going to select the proper answers to these questions for engineering controls, work practices. An asbestos waste transporter is needed since I am abating asbestos. So I'm going to click Add Waste Transporter. If I have more than one transporter that is going to be transferring the asbestos around from several sites, for example, you have the ability to add more than one. So we can click Asbestos Waste Transporter, excuse me. So again, I can select an existing company, or I can also create a new one if I need to, if it's not in the system. Okay, so if I have more than one, I can click Add Waste Transporter again. For an asbestos waste disposal site, you do not have the ability to add additional waste disposal sites through the software. Instead, you would need to contact us in order to add another one, because we do regulate landfills at Ohio EPA for other purposes than just this specific purpose, so we have to kind of keep a better handle on those since they're used by other divisions too. So we select our landfill and get a contact name for that person. Okay, and again, since this is not an emergency demolition or an emergency renovation, then we have completed what we've needed to. So I'm going to go ahead and save and validate. And now I have a message here down at the bottom that says form is valid. So now I think I am ready to submit. So I have my information. I don't have any additional work that's coming up for that same county and that same owner and abatement contractor. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. So when I go to submit my form, the first thing you're faced with is just a fee summary so that you are aware of what is contributing to this total like I showed you before. So again, these little question marks are over here that'll pop up and explain what these RECM fees are, how they're calculated, etc. Once you have done and reviewed this, you want to click Submit Notification. So you will be presented with an attestation language. The top portion here is generic for all of these Chrome compliant systems. The attestation language here indicates what the rules are. You're stating that this is, true and accurate information, and that you can legally submit the form. You'll answer your security question, which for my test system here is not, super secure, but not really a valid account. Okay, so you enter your PIN number. So once you have signed off, so you've done your wedding signature PIN number here, you are faced with the electronic payment screen. So you have a choice of using a credit card or an electronic check. For the credit card payment, notice that there is a service fee that is applicable. So all credit cards come and you get charged for using credit cards. This Ohio EPA has that service fee added on to the fee amount that you're paying. I believe it's actually 1 point something rather than 2.3, but that's adjusted in the real system. Or you can pay with an electronic check and there's no fee associated with that. So I'm going to pay with an electronic check. So I have to enter my PIN number. And answer my security question. And then I am taken to the state of Ohio's electronic payment system. So it explains to you what your routing number and your account number is on your checks if you're not familiar with that. So I'm going to enter in my fake checking account information. Okay, I can enter in an email address and check that I want to have a receipt emailed to me, and then I click on Continue. You will then be asked to confirm the payment information. Okay, got that all right, so I'm going to click Confirm. And then you have the ability to print a receipt. So you can print this receipt for your records, or if you need to pass it on to your client, obviously you can do that as well. Once you've received this, that means that we have submitted the information to the bank or to the credit card company to go through and confirm payment. But after this, it's important that you click Continue so that you navigate back to Ohio EPA software to the asbestos system. So now you can see my Wright-Patterson Air Force Base notification went from this draft area down here in a ready for review state. So let's review what we can do after we have submitted an original notification. So I'm going to look up here and let's see, in this system, we can go through and revise them. So let's say after I submitted this, I needed to come in and make some adjustments to my specific project dates. So I can come in here, let's see, it's that one, let's do a small one, and I can submit a revision. So I need to come in here, and I'm going to use a shortcut, which is to click on the End key on the keyboard to navigate down to the bottom of the screen so I can avoid scrolling. So that takes me down to the bottom, and I'm actually not going to get out there to do the abatement until sometime later in April. So I'm going to, whenever I am doing a revision to a notification, you'll notice there's these buttons up in the top right that say Revise. So Revise Section 5, Revise Section 6. This is how we are able to tell which portions of the form you have actually revised so that we don't have to kind of try to find a needle in a haystack. So if I'm going to revise a specific project, I need to click Revise Project Info, and then I'm going to select the project and click Edit. So for these apartment dorms that I was going to be doing work on, I'm going to change and move these dates out to April. So I need to revise Section E, and I'm going to move these out to make it a month later. Okay, but I still am going to be using the same abatement specialist. If I needed to change my abatement specialist, I could delete him, I could create a new one, I could add additional hours, whatever needs to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and save that change and close it. And I'm going to submit my revision, so I can click Submit and go through the PIN process. It will display for you the fee summary again, so if you see a change in that fee amount, you can acknowledge it, but you will not be able to pay at that point, not until all of the projects are completed, as discussed before. So if you're submitting this, you'd go through that same process of clicking Submit Notification and entering in your PIN information. So you'll notice when you are out here, as soon as you have something that's being revised, it shows up, it moves back up here into this unsubmitted draft area, because that is a revision that we haven't yet received. So I'm going to go ahead and delete, let's say, I changed my mind. I actually don't need to change this, and I'm not going to submit this revision. I can delete it out of here, and it would appear back down in the bottom area, back to where it was. So when you submit a revision, it will show up as having more detailed information below. So if you've submitted 10 revisions, 1 revision, you'll see them all listed here. So you can come through here and see the number of revisions that you have had. That's where this comes in to be helpful when it says download all PDFs. You can download the current PDF version of it. You can also download all the attachments as well as all the different revision components to that. Okay, so let's say we want to cancel a notification. If you need to cancel a notification, again, you can only cancel it if the project start dates have not already passed. So even if you have it on hold, you cannot cancel it if the beginning start dates of abatement or demolition have begun. So you see this cancel option here is available for this one because those projects have not started. This one, you do not have a cancel option available because those projects have started. So let's say I want to cancel one, I can come in here, I can say cancel. If I have additional information I want to attach, like there is order to stop work, whatever the case may be, you can enter that optional attachment and then click cancel notification. And it will bring it down here to the canceled section. So I have 2 canceled notifications down here. Okay, so I believe, is there anything else I'm missing, Mark? I think I've hit it all as well. I'm not, I might have missed something. But if you do find at any point that you have a ton of work that's stacked up in here and you're not able to view it, these filters should come in pretty handy. So, for example, if I only want to see the ones that I have currently going for Central Ohio, if I had a list of 100 of them and I started filtering, I could narrow down which ones I'm viewing at that time. Okay, so I believe we've covered most everything here, so let's go ahead and open it up to some questions that any of you might have. And again, let's go ahead and if you can type them into your chat, since you guys don't have the ability to talk to us at this point, we'll repeat the question for you. Okay, we have a specific question about browser setting specifications. Currently, in this demonstration, I'm using Google Chrome. Google Chrome works well with this product. We can also use Internet Explorer. If you use Internet Explorer for this software, you have to turn off compatibility view settings. I can't demonstrate that with this right now because we currently have WebEx running using Internet Explorer. But if you have any problems at all viewing or using this software, feel free to contact our helpline. And the compatibility view settings in Internet Explorer, you just have to turn all of those off in order to use the asbestos system. But again, you can use Google Chrome and without any problem. A question about in what circumstances do you want to deactivate your PIN? If for some reason you believe that your PIN number has been compromised, like if you have your personal, you have your user account information in a book that you left out in the open and for some reason you feel that you need to deactivate it, you can do that. And that way you can go ahead and establish a new one. So if you lost it for some reason and don't want to view it and don't trust that it's being protected, you can deactivate it. So a question about the credit card fee is whether or not it's a flat fee or if it's a percentage. The credit card fees that we receive at the agency it's a percentage and it gets adjusted. So right now it's I think it's like 1.8% or so. Okay. Go ahead.
We have a question that says, when does a 10-day period start when I submit online? Is it when the system accepts the notification? Are we emailed the date we can start the project? The 10-day period starts as the day you submit. It goes from the submission date, whatever day you submit it, and the 10 days would calculate from that date. And you're not emailed the date that you can start. It just won't let you start if you try to start it too soon.
Yeah, so we had this question in the last session regarding when you can start work, if it's on the 10th day or the 11th day. So it's 10 working days, which is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, not including Saturday and Sunday, but you can begin work on the 11th day, even if that's a weekday.
Question, is there a specific form or template you want for multiple asbestos surveyors in the general attachments? No, right now there is not a specific template. We would want to know information, the name of the person, their evaluation specialist number, and for which address the person did the survey for, but there is no specific template for that. Another question, when do asbestos surveys need to be attached to as a PDF? There's no requirement that they have to be attached. Some of the local agencies like to see those attached, but they don't have to be. If you do attach those to your notification, then we wouldn't require you to have the building inspection report on site as required by the licensing rules.
Let's see, a question from Stephanie Beebe. Let's see, you mentioned that if we use a check, we have to also submit a hard copy of the notification. Does this apply to electronic checks? The answer is no. If you're submitting electronically, then you would pay electronically, like I did in this demonstration using an electronic check. What I was speaking to is if you were unable to pay electronically and needed to use a hard copy check or money order, then you would have to submit your form in hard copy as well. Okay, Michael Schramm had a question about repeating what happens if we have more than one evaluation specialist to enter. So if you have more than one evaluation specialist, you would enter one of them in the form itself, like I demonstrated. If you have more than one, like Mark described, if you would complete the same information and just indicate those and which projects they're associated with, you can upload those as an attachment to the form itself.